Welcome back, Restoring Darkness listeners and viewers. Folks, what a week we had last week. Greg, Eric, and I were in Utah. Where were we? We were in Wasatch County to support Save Wasatch Back Dark Skies. Now, it sounds a little bit different. Save Wasatch Back. What does that mean? Well, Wasatch Front is Salt Lake City, a heavily light polluted environment. But the mountains block all that light pollution, and in the Wasatch Back, I was able to see beautiful, pristine, starry skies from mountain range to mountain range. And so Greg, Eric, and I flew down to help with a presentation to the Wasatch County Planning Commission. Greg gave a presentation on the technical side. The Save Wasatch Back Dark Skies people, Lisa Bahash and Sean Severino, gave presentations about why they should not allow uplight in the county. And it was amazing. The Planning Commission really absorbed a lot of what we said. We've got a lot of momentum right now in that movement. So this is what this foundation is about. That's right. Supporting our people on the ground, people that want to preserve the night, people that want to restore darkness. The Lighting in Darkness Foundation will be there for you. So if you're listening to this, not everybody has time to donate to volunteer, to help out, to make calls, write letters, and do all sorts of other things involved in this kind of advocacy work. But you know what? There's other ways to help out. And one of those ways is to go to the restoringdarkness.com website right now and click that donate link. Why not become a monthly donor? That's right. The Lighting in Darkness Foundation is going to create advocacy programs on the ground to help out those who want to preserve night and restore darkness. So you can even give directly to the campaigns. Right now we only have one, that's Save Wasatch Back Dark Skies. But if you click Darkness Campaigns on the restoringdarkness.com website today, you can donate directly to the Utah cause. That's right, folks. And guess what? The Lighting in Darkness Foundation will match your donation dollar for dollar up to $3,500. And I think right now we already have $1,700 and there's more coming in. So help us save Wasatch Back Dark Skies. My thanks go out right now to Sean Savarino and Lisa Bahash of Save Wasatch Back Dark Skies for their amazing work. And guess what, girls? We're just getting started in Utah. That's right. We're going to get this advocacy campaign up and running, and we are going to not stop talking about this until there's no uplight allowed in the back counties, Wasatch County of Utah. We've got a great show for you guys ahead. We got Dan Jobbins. He's talking about landscape lighting, his company, Hudson Valley Holidays in New York. And he talks about how you can still have some landscape lighting, but we need to make it so that it turns off. And so that we're talking more about wayfinding rather than lighting things up all night long. So wait for that. Dan Jobbins coming up. But before we get to that, we got to go to the Darkness News Update with Scott Wachter. Hey, Scott, what do you got, buddy?
All right, pop quiz. How many studies about Allen were published last year?
I'm going to say 26.
437.
Get out of here.
Academic papers about dark sky related topics. This is public. This is a big database that Dark Sky International maintains. They index everything. You can find these. It's a great spreadsheet. I wish you could sort it by which ones are behind paywalls, but they've just updated it for this year. So in 2022, 437 documents got added to this database. 30% of them are about wildlife issues. 30% are about how to use remote sensing to build our knowledge to understand where the light is going up. And we've also got a lot of human-centric topics and security topics going down the list.
You know, the research community is really starting to see this as an environmental issue. And we've been talking about it here on the Restoring Darkness podcast since, October 2021, Scott. And then before that, the great work of Dark Sky. But now we're starting to see the motion, the movement at the bottom of the research papers are coming out. Light pollution is pollution, Scott Wachter.
All right, so this is not an endorsement. This is not an endorsement, but this is a product that did something that I think we can respect around here. LumiLEDs, makers of LEDs, have designed a new LED chip that only emits 2% blue light.
Wow. It's a great
Yeah.
innovation for
And
this. It's all the stuff is coming. It's all coming. I can't wait. Yes. So
and they said
congratulations to Luminets.
they said specifically that they were looking at night preservation issues in outdoor planning. They want to be part of the solution. And you know what? Looking at the specs on this thing, these are lab specs, but these are way more encouraging than even say PC Amber or Amber LEDs.
Sure. Wow. Congratulations to Lumileds, and thank you for contributing. This is what we need. We need the research, and then we need industry. We need to start making the fixtures, making the equipment, Scott.
Yeah. All right. So we've got a new study from the University of Guelph. A third of all North American bioluminescent insects are endangered species now.
Tragedy.
Yeah.
And especially when, light pollution is such an easy, it's something we can fix right now. We don't have to wait for it. I mean, you might have to wait for a little bit of planning, maybe a rebate application or two, but people can get started on this right now. And what we're talking about there, Scott, is restoring darkness. So that wildlife group, they are being attacked by light pollution, right? And
Absolutely.
it's not like we have to, we have a dam or something like some massive. We just have to get these lights turned off. We have to get them turned down. We have to get them tuned down. We have to shield them. These are all easy peasy lemon squeezy things to do, Scott. We got to just do it, and everybody in the lighting industry is going to get rich. I don't see the problem here. Let's go.
Right. So we have a meta study. So 4 UK research hospitals bought a bunch of data from 1,500 other papers and started cross-indexing factors and found out that sleep disorders are definitely linked with prostate cancer. This is another confirmation of research we've talked about before, but yep, you can see that sleep disorders lead to prostate cancer. Sleep disorders separate of chemo-related fatigue make prostate cancer worse.
Wow. I mean, at the end of the day, even from our work on the Get a Grip on Lighting side, Scott, and the lighting industry news brief and all that, what seems to be coming out to me is that all of this lighting that people are talking about or circadian, all the actual result should be better sleep. And if people can sleep better, they'll be healthier.
That's exactly it. And speaking of that, we have a comment. This is not any research, but a comment, a letter to the editors of The Lancet, the biggest journal in medicine, from Diego L. Golombek of Universidad de San Andres in Argentina, calling for what he calls sleep diplomacy.
And this would be an advocacy or an awareness creation program by researchers and scientists to help people understand that sleep is like healthy sleep is health. Actually, probably like it's like light pollution is pollution. Sleeping properly is the fundamental basis of a healthy person.
And he wants to bring this down to the individual doctor level so that your GP is asking you about your sleep a lot more often. And this is, again, I just like the phrase sleep diplomacy.
I love that.
That's one we got to use more.
Yeah, it is a wonderful term. It's like the idea of tranquility. That I can't remember. My mind goes so fast on these shows when we're recording, but this idea of silence and darkness and sleep. These are all kind of the same thing that we're talking about here. They all go together. Light pollution, sound pollution, disrupted sleep. All these things are from this lack of tranquility that we have in our world, Scott Wachter, and we need to bring it back.
All right, moving north from Argentina, we're talking about Colombia, which is 3% brighter every year over the past 10 years, particularly the 5 biggest cities in the country.
Oh my goodness! The light pollution is just, I think it was Ruskin Hartley from Dark Sky was talking with Randy Reed from Edison Report, saying 10% a year. Light pollution increases. We have to stop that. We're talking about restoring darkness. Well, we have to preserve night, Scott Wachter. We have to stop doing more damage, right? Like stop the madness, right? Like it's the same thing with climate change. Can you prove to me that you can stop increasing CO2 emissions? Never mind reducing them. Like let's just see if we can stop increasing it. Lighting industry, get on board with darkness restoration and night preservation. It's our moral duty.
All right, we're going to the other Columbia. This is in Pennsylvania, and they are turning off the lighting on a bridge. This bridge is on the upper deck, has been a big attractor of mayflies. And this is causing so much. This is a hazard to drivers. This is how many mayflies there are. I've got a picture here of dead mayflies piled 2 feet high on the road, and
That's
they are finally
grotesque.
just turned. Yeah, yeah. They're just turning off the lights, and it's like, look, this is all we can do. It's better for the mayflies. It'll be better for us. Just drive safely across this bridge at night.
So, hopefully we're going to layer that picture into this program to show people the piled up mayflies. But you're talking about cars skidding out on the dead bodies of insects, right? That's what the problem is here.
Yeah, or just losing, or just complete blanked out of windscreens. Basically fog conditions, but the parts per million is the size of this.
Light pollution is so grotesque. When you start to get into the
Yeah.
weeds of it, the dead birds, the may like oh who cares about the mayflies? The birds can fly over there. Actually, why don't you come have a look? Come have a look at a million dead birds and see what it looks like, and see if you still feel the same way. And if you do, then you're a psychopath. If I mean, there's no like how many dead mayflies? Okay, so what about the drivers? Do you care
Yeah.
about that? And so yeah, I applaud that. Columbia, Pennsylvania. Did you say?
Yes.
Shut that down, buddy. Let's go. Yeah, I love it.
All right, so it's turtle season, Mike. It's turtle season, so we got 3 turtle topics to go through.
Let's do it.
So Key West public beaches lights out at 11 until
Okay.
October. That's their decision for the year. Marco Island, Florida, they've allocated police resources for turtle task force patrols at night.
Okay.
So these are civilians. These are civilians, but in a police vehicle, and they are authorized to hit people with private citizens with citations, fines, actual fines, for having beach-facing lighting on after 9, and they also have to knock over sandcastles because they might.
Are you
Yes,
kidding
the
me? Is
cops
that
have
legit?
to knock.
They have to go knock down
This
the
is the other
sandcastle.
thing they have to do is the sandcastles they block the little turtles as they're on their way out. So
Oh,
I'm
man.
sorry, but the cops have to kick your sandcastle over.
Oh man, sounds so mean, but sorry, kids. But was there one
Sorry.
more? You said 3 things on turtles. Did you give
One
me all-
more. So
Yeah.
Bear Warriors United is suing the city of Palm Beach over what they believe to be failures, ESA violations, Endangered Species Act violations, for sea turtles in the city. They've got a 100-page document, annotated photos, the whole thing, of what Palm Beach is not doing to help turtles right now, and they are taking the city to court over it.
As much as I applaud this, we have to get away from the cute animals. Like, it can't just be about the turtles. We only love the pandas and the turtles and the poor, beautiful little rabbits or whatever. We don't care about the alligators and the mayflies, but actually, it all goes together. And so, I'd like to see more than just turtles, but I'm so happy to hear that. The other thing is, I'd love Key West to monitor the crime rates while they turn off those lights. Let us know. See what happens. Was there more crime or less crime over other years? Let's package it together with some research.
Yeah, I mean, just start looking at your numbers. Like, start correlating
Yeah.
data.
Yeah, I'd really like to see
Right.
that. So we always love the sea turtles, but what do you got next here, Scott?
All right, we got another lawsuit. This is one coming to an end. This is a 2-year legal proceeding that's been going on between Scottsdale, Arizona Unified School District and the residents near one of their high schools about a baseball field.
Hmm.
This has pretty standard. I mean, what you would think is pretty standard baseball field lighting, full kit, couple of poles, big old fixtures. But they finally come to a settlement out of court that the school district will only run 20 night games a year, none of them on Sundays. The last 3 innings, they start dimming the lights. The lights have to be off an hour after the end of play.
And what time does the sun set in Arizona?
Well,
that
during
time of year.
baseball season, around
Yeah.
6:30 maybe?
Is it that early? In the summer, like
mean-
in June or July, the sun might not set till 9, 10 o'clock. It's like a lot of people think, oh man, let the kids play baseball. But what if the lights are on till 1, 2 in the morning? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think we totally understand the scope of this. When are the lights going off? How bright are they? How much trespass is there? And can this actually be fixed? That would be the other thing. Is can we get a lighting expert in there to get some shielded stuff going? I mean, we were just in you saw I was in Utah last week, Scott, talking to the good folks at Save Wasatch Back Dark Skies, and we looked at various ways that are opposite of uplighting, which was downlighting, And it was very interesting to see how you can tighten things up with shields and that. So there isn't this light coming out, projecting off the structure. I guarantee you with those light fixtures in the field, they're 50, 60% of the light is cast way beyond the field into the neighbors' yards and houses and stuff like that. And so it is a big deal, folks. And if people are listening to this and they think, oh, let the kids play baseball. Yeah, okay. Yes, I agree. But there needs to be some solution. There needs to be some tranquility for people as well.
All right. So the Cedar Rapids Country Club of Iowa must use motion sensor lighting all around the edge of their facility. So this is tennis courts, golf courses, anything that faces away from the space, it's on motion sensors now. This is a city council thing.
And as much as I like that, I've done a lot of motion sensors in my life. A little bit worried about long-term execution of those sensors. The other thing, is that, the motion sensors are something we need to develop better. I think we could, with those lighting control systems, so we could actually see if the motion sensor is not being false tripped by some kind of HVAC duct coming out of the building at night. You know what I'm saying? The motion sensors are not a panacea for this. Shielded light fixtures are the way to go. Low Kelvin temperature, dim down. The other thing is that on and off, if there's some sort of, raccoon or something running around, he's going to trip that sensor. Or coyotes or whatever, and you could have on and offs on those lights all night long, which are possibly worse than just steady light pollution for in some ways, because you're going to have that on, all of a sudden the light goes on. So I love motion sensors. I love the idea, but this is where we need that connected lighting, Scott, so we can monitor it and see if it's working properly.
All right, so I know you're talking about Utah. You just got back from Utah, but how do you feel about a trip to Wyoming?
Love Wyoming, same part, basically the same geography, the same kind of environment. What's going on in Wyoming?
So Cody, this is a town on the drive up to the Shoshone Mountain National Reserve, National Forest. We've got the LDS proposing a 100-foot tall steeple with full up lighting, and the residents are already pushing back.
Yeah, look, a lot of the argument, and when I was in Wasatch back, I was talking to these folks, and they're like, well, don't bring up this LDS and don't bring up that and don't talk about this or the Jehovah's Witnesses or the Islam or the this or that or the minarets or what. Like, actually, nobody really cares what you worship, to be honest with you. I mean, are there jerks out there? Yes, but the vast majority of people, especially ones in this movement, because I know many of them, and they're all good people. They don't care about your temple or your mosque or your church. They just don't want you to uplight it, okay? And this idea, these different churches and that they believe that we have to uplight it because this is where heaven and earth connect. And it's like, no, you can't blot out the heavens. That's what and expect this is electric anthropogenic light pollution. It's got nothing to do with holiness. Okay? And it is 100% conspicuous, obscene, and grotesque. So I don't care if you're Catholic, Muslim, LDS, Hindu, whatever, light pollution is not a reflection of holiness or sanctimoniousness. Okay? It's not sanctifying your space. It's grotesque. And we need to get that into these folks' heads, whatever religion they are, Scott Wachter.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, we will talk about a minaret when I get a minaret story.
There you go. I mean, I understand why they want to do this, because they have 20th century thinking about electric light. Okay? But we have way too much information now, and you need to open your eyes, and you need to see what's in front of your eyes. This is not good for the planet. It's actually pollution. It's grotesque, obscene, and conspicuous. So no, it's got nothing to do with the heaven and earth connecting because of anthropogenic light pollution. Okay, that's not a thing. Okay?
Pretty sure there's like a story about a tower to the heavens that did not go well.
Yeah, Tower of Babel, buddy. Exactly. Like you're building these human structures. And yes, many of these buildings are beautiful to look at. But the light pollution is grotesque, folks. Get a grip.
And that's it for the week.
Oh, sorry. Wow. The Darkness News Update, Scott. Great work. And if you want to follow Scott Wachter, you can go to restoringdarkness.com. You can see he posts all these stories there. You can dive deeper. All the links are there for you. LinkedIn's a good place. So is Twitter. Scott, you're posting everything on social media as it comes out. He's consistently posting these stories, so you can follow Scott Wachter's work. Scott, great job. Thanks for another great Darkness News update.
All right. Thank you.
Well, folks, I just want to talk to you a little bit more about the Lighting in Darkness Foundation. Close to my heart. We just spent the last couple of days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday in Utah, helping out Save Wasatch Back Dark Skies. And, folks, this movement is for humanity. It encompasses all religions, all backgrounds. There is no human culture that did not gaze upon the stars in awe. Okay? That's the reason why we sent burnt lamb smoke up to heaven in our sacrifices. Not because God was sitting on a cloud, because at night we saw the vastness and beauty of the universe unveiled before our eyes. We want to preserve that where it exists at the Lighting in Darkness Foundation. We want to begin to restore that to our light-polluted environment. It's going to take time. It's going to take energy, a lot of work, but we're ready to do that work. So why not become a recurring donor? That's right. Go to restoringdarkness.com, click the donate link, and slide down a little bit. There's a donate button on there. We're a 501c3. We have our EIN number. A lot of people have been asking us all these kinds of questions. Look, we're not registered on the IRS site because the IRS is backlogged, not because we're not a legal charity, right? So if you want to see that letter from our lawyer that says, yes, we're fully 501c3, we can issue tax receipts, just go ahead and email us, and we will send that letter to you for your group. And folks, why not become a monthly donor? Why not? Especially, and if you want to be a volunteer, hey, look, we got lots of work to do here at the foundation. If you want to volunteer to help us out, contact us. And the final thing is, if you want to give directly to the folks in Utah, click Darkness Campaigns and slide down and you can see Save Wasatch Back Dark Skies. Every dollar donated up to $3,500 will be matched by the foundation. We're already up to $1,700, over $1,700 already for those folks down there. And we're going to use every dollar for the Wasatch County to preserve the, I saw it with my own eyes, the absolutely pristine and gorgeous night skies, starry skies was unbelievable. So folks, go to restoringdarkness.com. Coming up now, I got Dan Jobbins of Hudson Valley Holiday Lighting. He's talking about landscape lighting. We start talking about wayfinding. That's right. Enjoy.
Restoring Darkness is brought to you by Evluma, illuminating the pursuit of dark skies.
Welcome back to the Restoring Darkness show. On today's show, I have Dan Jobbins. He is a lighting designer based out of New York's beautiful Hudson Valley. He graduated from Boston University's College of Fine Arts with a BFA in theatrical lighting design. He has had a 15-year career designing lighting for theaters up and down the East Coast, as well as for high-profile events in the New York metropolitan area. During the pandemic and resulting shutdowns of arts and entertainment venues, Dan pivoted towards landscape lighting, securing a position with one of the oldest landscape lighting companies in the Northeast. He later struck out on his own to form Hudson Valley Holidays, which started as a holiday lighting company, but has grown to include all manner of outdoor and landscape lighting design. Dan takes pride in placing the highest emphasis on quality design and services within the Hudson Valley Holidays, a big part of which is striving for dark sky compliance. Dan, welcome to the Restoring Darkness podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's interesting. I really love Christmas lights and holiday lights and celebrations and stuff like that. And, one of the things I often say is, we can probably have our cake and eat it too with this, when it comes to night preservation, just by using simple timers and devices and controls to shut things off when we're not celebrating. I don't know if that's a good introduction to this, Dan, but, what's your take on all of that?
No, I think you're definitely right. I mean, in my world of, low voltage landscape lighting, holiday lighting, the big tenets, of light pollution in terms of dealing with sky glow isn't something we concern ourselves with overly. Most of our fixtures in the landscape lighting world are 5, maybe 7 watts. Versus street lighting or commercial parking lots or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then similarly in the holiday lighting world, really nothing's that bright that it's I would think, a major concern to the ecosystem. Um, of course, we try to limit things with timers, both from the electrical consumption standpoint, the longevity of the product, and then also being cognizant of dark skies. Um, for me, the bigger thing that I think about when I'm approaching a project, as it pertains to darkness restoration or night sky preservation, it's more about all the other aspects of light pollution, right? It's about eliminating glare. It's about they talk about the visual clutter, making sure that you don't have a bunch of spots all over the place, which becomes a thing potentially within holiday lighting.
Mm-hmm.
But there, it's small pinpoints of light right in your roof line with little C9 or C7 bulbs. They're tiny, um, and they're only up for a month max. Maybe a month and a half, depending on when we get around to our takedowns that season. So it really becomes less about, like I said, less about sky glow or anything like impacting wildlife, more about impacting the other humans in the environment. Shining a light that looks beautiful on your tree, but shines directly in the bedroom windows.
Well, it's interesting because there's been a sort of progression with humans and outdoor light at night, and if you go back to the Eiffel Tower, say in France, I don't know if you've ever been on the Seine River and floated by it at nighttime and you see it. It's very beautiful. So I think what's happening is light is outdoor light at night or electric light at night is transitioning from being assumed to be beautiful and create safety to starting to take on this reputation as being a touch ostentatious and then maybe conspicuous. And I think we're on the path to conspicuous outdoor lighting becoming grotesque, actually.
Absolutely.
When you look at the World Trade Center, when you go there, they only turn the lights on very rarely now because they had so many dead birds. Millions of dead birds, and you think the same thing about the what's that one in Las Vegas, that's shaped like the pyramid with the light shoot, Luxor. There's something grotesque about I don't care if it's human death or animal death. There's something grotesque about that much of an impact for what? You know what I'm saying? And I think we're on the path to that. Is this type of lighting where you have landscape lighting on a big home and that sort of stuff? Are your customers asking you to have controls? Or are you having to sell that to them?
No, I mean everyone wants controls. I'll generally talk people away from the sort of photo cell on for on when it gets dark, off when it gets bright, and push people towards timers or smart controls. Personally, from my own experience, I've been moving away from the smart controls, to be honest, more towards just dumb timers. I find that the headaches of now that there are more and more network devices in a home, adding new layers of it is just complicated. Really, it comes from my own experience. We recently had to replace our Wi-Fi router, and it was a nightmare going through my my landscape lights, my Roku, all my Internet of Things I had to reset, and ultimately people aren't adjusting the ons and offs that often over the course of a year, right? So you can set it come on at whatever 8 p.m., go off at 11 p.m. on the timer, and that's really it, right? I would say that all of my clients who have smart controls, I doubt any of them have ever changed the timing settings from the first time they installed it.
Yeah,
So I prefer to keep it set.
The importance of digital accessibility to lighting to the person that sits under the light is vastly overestimated by the controls community. People do not want to have alerts on their phone from their lighting system. Okay, if you give someone control, they usually set it and forget it, and that's the end of it. I agree with you. I think one of the greatest inventions we have for this space, for outdoor lighting, I don't know if it's not so good for landscape, but just for outdoor lighting, and I have them at my house, is an intermatic timer where you push the button, it's 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, or 2 hours. And you just push the button and it goes to 15 minutes. You push it twice, it goes to 30 minutes. You push it 3 times, it goes to an hour. You push it 4 times, it goes to 2 hours. You push it again, it goes off. That is such a simple, because I tried actually occupancy sensors on the outdoor of my house, but they're being tripped all the time by all sorts of different things. So I just switched to that. And I find it's way more effective and generally along the lines of what people want. A switch.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of times people think they want smart controls because that's the selling point for everything. And as soon as you talk them through it, they're more than happy. And if they really want it, I mean, I'm happy to sell them a Wi-Fi control transformer. Like, it's no skin off my back. Honestly, as a contractor, it's more money in my pocket. But once they never make full use of it, so for me, it's not dollars that are well spent. So it's keeping it dumb is easier. People think they want more than they do. Same thing, honestly, with a lot of the color changing stuff. People ask me about color changing, and then you talk through like, well, when are you going to use it? Well, maybe if the Giants win the Super Bowl, we'll change the Giants colors. Regardless of your opinions on the Giants. But like, are you really going to do that? Like, are you really going to walk around with your phone and reprogram your lights? Like, again, if it's something that people are interested in, it's a service that we provide, but it's not something that's as much demand as honestly even the industry seems to think there is.
I think also the fussiness of controls, even for people that configure controls, so controls integrators or people that are experienced with it, they struggle with the commissioning of these digital control systems. Don't kid yourself. And so to expect a person to download an app on their phone, and the other thing too is like, is the app even accessible with the? I mean, you have Bluetooth problems with older cars with the new phone.
Mm-hmm.
Never mind a lighting system, which is supposed to have a 25-year lifetime. Are you really going to be using a Samsung Galaxy in 2035? I mean, that's going to address the system, and are they going to send you updates? Or I don't know, man. It just doesn't seem like something that's very wise to me.
And then it comes down to the good, fast, and cheap, or in this case, good, easy, and cheap option, right? You can only pick two. Most people are going to pick cheap, so you're going to have it good, or you can have it easy. But it's hard to get to something that's not going to blow people's budgets, right? I'm not putting in a full DMX control system into somebody's landscape lighting. And when we're looking at stuff that's lighting manufacturer that turns out a Bluetooth app to go with it, like how good is the app? It's difficult to pair. Once it's paired, it's difficult to attach to the lights. But to go back to what you're saying about the sort of shift towards ostentatiousness in landscape lighting, that's something that I also am very sensitive to. I think that there's a lot of situations where people confuse impressive lighting with good lighting, right? Like you can put 100 lights out into somebody's yard, and you walk by or you drive by, and wow, and then you realize that really what you're responding to is not the quality of the design, but just like the sheer amount of light that they've pumped into their garden. And the thing, for one thing, and what I talk my customers through is, it goes, if you go too far, it goes down this road of looking like a commercial business, right? It looks like a hotel, it looks like a bed and breakfast, when really it doesn't look like a home, right? Every tree has a light on it, every plant has a light on it. There's, every aspect of the architecture is uplit as bright as it can be. Like, and people don't want that. People want their homes to feel homey. Even the people who live in big mansions, still want them to feel warm and intimate and attractive to them personally when they come up. So it's you need the darkness, right? You can't just pump light into an area and call it good lighting, right? You need and that ties into darkness restoration. Is you need it not just for the ecosystem and the environment, but you need it to actually create good design, right? You need to have elements of the yard that are darkness. You need that are in darkness. You have like texture and levels and different levels of intensity, right? You can't just pump everything full of light and light everything and expect it to look good. It'll look impressive, and probably the first time you turn it on, the homeowner will say, "Wow, I love it. It's looks incredible," and maybe their friend will come over and say the same thing. But it doesn't mean that it's actually good design. It just means that it's a lot of lights that are now, in the ground.
It's the Eiffel Tower. I don't care. I don't think that's ever that memory of seeing the Eiffel Tower on a Seine River cruise was spectacular. I don't think I'm ever going to lose that. But, there's something about light pollution that people don't take seriously. So, people, if somebody was dumping their raw sewage into the wastewater drain, they would certainly hide that from others, right? But people seem to produce light pollution, and they feel no way about it. They think it's fantastic. That's changing, But how do we when do you talk to people when you're selling them, hey, what we're doing here with landscape lighting is we're creating light pollution. And so and it says here, striving for dark sky compliance. Landscape lighting is light pollution. There's no security element to it. There is, there's perhaps a celebratory element to it. And so for me, the only way that it can be compliant is if it is on some kind of timer and off by a certain time. Am I correct in assuming that, or is there a way to create uplight that's dark sky compliant?
Well, I'd say, there's definitely more to it than just putting on a timer, because that was the case. If it was just about controls, it would be, we wouldn't think twice about it. But there's also, in terms of looking at the fixtures, and also a lot of it's how the fixtures are aimed, right? Fixtures, lighting should serve a purpose, right? That's part of the dark sky and the dark sky association.
The 5 principles of responsible outdoor lighting, yes. It has
exactly. Right. So the light should serve a purpose, which can be aesthetic, as long as it's controlled, right? You want as many of the lumens or the watts that are leaving the light to be actually projected onto whatever the object is that you're lighting, whether it's a pillar on the home or maybe it's an ornamental tree. There's an emphasis on shielded lighting, right? So path lighting, hardscape lighting that has like full cutoff, deck lighting, which honestly, aesthetically, even before I sort of got involved in the dark sky community, was where my mind always went away. I always like the idea of sort of soft pools of light to create your areas that people move through. And it does, I know that in terms of security, it has limited effect, although it does have effect in terms of people feeling safe, which people feeling safe at their home, outside their homes, is valid. But it does have effect in terms of safety, right? Just walkways, transition areas, if you're moving from a paved area to a grass area. But I think it's undeniable that adding lighting for those trip hazards and stuff like that. Sure. And that's something that people ask about too. I forgot to take out the trash and, it's dark. So, which is usually an add-on. I don't do a lot of like trash can lighting. But if I'm doing someone's backyard, that'll something like, when we let the dogs out at night, I need to be able to see where I'm going. So we have there as well. But for me, and the approach in terms of the relationship with light pollution and creating designs that minimize the light pollution, and that's part of it too. That it's, if they don't hire me, who's going to come to it with a sensitive approach to light pollution, they're going to hire somebody else who is going to go down the road of like, oh, well, no, you need 20 lights there and you need 30 lights there, and just point it, so I'm not in the business of saying no to it. All right. It's all about saying yes to it responsibly, right? So, okay. So you want lighting. That's valid and fine. And that's what I do. That's why you call me. Sure. But part of my job is to make sure then that it's done responsibly. And a lot of times I don't even sell them on the idea of dark sky compliance or light pollution, because it can be a tough nut to swallow for clients. So the answer is you just go and do it yourself, right? They say, hey, I want lighting. And I say, great, I'm going to come up with a design for you that reduces glare. I'll make sure that the light is only shining on what you want to light. You really focus on your beautiful plantings and your beautiful architecture. We'll make sure that it's not annoying your neighbors. So a special, full cutoff fixtures with adjustable glare shields. And we'll make sure that it's not visually confusing. There's all a nice warm color temperature, and it goes on and off. It's only on when you need it, and people love it. And like right there, you've put together a dark sky friendly, I should say, package. And the client doesn't even know it. So the idea is you don't give them a choice, right? If a lot of clients, if you come in and you right off the bat, you say, all right, like light pollution is bad. This is what we're going to do.
It's not a good sales strategy yet.
Right. Exactly.
I couldn't agree with you more. So, I'm the host of the Restoring Darkness podcast, and I don't do a lot of landscape lighting. So that's more of, as you can see, the progression of your career is leading towards that, right? Towards that aesthetic value of light, how to create focus on things and all that. I'm more into the industrial commercial space. Very difficult to sell people less light. It's almost impossible. Yeah. I mean, when I say almost impossible, I mean almost impossible. Like the client has to call in looking for that. If you go to a client and say, yeah, you're going to change the lights on the back of your factory, and we're going to put shields in, and we're going to warm it up to the color of HPS. But hang on a second, why am I doing this? Well, there's also a rebate and you're going to save energy. But no. We want to project that light back further. We want to have more sky. Like basically what clients say to me is we want more sky glow, more light pollution. That if you,
Yeah.
that's what they want. That's what the deliverable is for them. And so I think we're a ways away from that. I think in my opinion, the only way to conquer the commercial industrial light pollution is through regulation. People are not going to choose this voluntarily. They're just not going to do it.
Absolutely. I mean, also, you have to go around and convince not even every single contractor, every single customer that they want this versus, one government or, whether it's at the municipal, county, state, whatever level, that regulation, sort of takes care of it. And then, it takes that decision out of every single designer and every single contractor and every single electrician and every single customer all having to get on board with it.
Yeah, and just as an aside, right now in the middle of the show, I've never done this before. I'm going to do it right now. That's why we started the Lighting and Darkness Foundation, folks. It started by people on the front lines of the lighting industry, and we started the foundation because we find it extremely difficult to sell this, and almost impossible actually when you're selling to contractors and commercial properties. And so, if you want to help us in our work, just go to restoringdarkness.com and click the Donate Now button. That's right. We're a 501c3. You're going to get a charitable receipt. We're going to create education. We're going to do advocacy on the ground and support. And we're going to teach people all over North America to be certified. We're going to call it Darkness Specialist 1, and then we're going to do 2 and 3. So just go to the restoringdarkness.com website, click Donate. That's right. We're going to make this thing happen, and we're going to start by training the lighting industry. Dan, back into the dealing with the clients again. So you're creating, and I actually love. You corrected me there. When I'm thinking of landscape lighting, I'm thinking of these ground-mounted fixtures shining up on everything, right, around the garden or around the house. But I forgot about the step lighting and the bollards and all of that wonderful equipment is much better for light pollution if we're lighting from a low area and spreading the light out horizontally. So if the optics are set so that the light is set down and to spread across a surface, first of all, it looks way better, Dan. And second of all, it's the best. It's the best lighting to reduce sky glow, and it just looks amazing. Tell me a little bit more how you incorporate that into your stairwell lights and your pathway lighting.
So the key thing, manufacturers tend to lump. They call it pathway and area. They lump together. But you'll see sort of two types of fixtures, right? One is, or I would say they sort of fall into like different shapes. So fall into genres. One is the sort of what we think of as traditional path lighting. Is, the stem with like a conical hat over it that projects light down into a circle around. And there's square hats, whatever, all bright. Then on top of that, there's more directional ones, which will be almost like a little mini spotlight on top of the post, right? So it comes up and there's an L and there's a little tiny spotlight that shines down. Which those I like for especially stairs, pathways, where you're not really interested in lighting what's around, right? The conical ones, which give you the circle of light, are nice if you have plantings around it that you want to highlight as well. Sometimes you put it in the middle of the garden because it gets some of the lower lying ground cover lit. It's less of a functional path light, or it can be used for more than just a directional path light. Also common is marker lights, which are a flush-mounted light, which project a very thin beam of light that basically just grazes across the surface.
Love those.
Those are useful, especially for if you want to do a pathway where there isn't something to light, for instance, or a lot of times they get used if you're doing a pathway through grass, because everyone in the landscape industry knows that path lights are like magnets for lawnmowers. And you put path lights up, and then your landscaper comes through, and you're replacing path lights up once a month. The marker lights are lower to the ground. Challenge, and they create a visual path, right? So they give less light to the general area, but if you're looking from the back of your house down to say a dock, right, you can see the markers of light that guide you to where you're going.
I think a good word for that is wayfinding. Like if we were to incorporate, so one of the things that I find in the lighting industry is like the term, and love the Dark Sky International. I love what they do. I love the Dark Sky Preserves and all that sort of stuff. But when on our committees, we found the term dark sky difficult to understand. because we actually want a bright sky filled with stars. And dark sky has a connotation of negativity to it. So we like to use the word restoring darkness, preserving night, and creating wayfinding solutions that are not necessarily electrical, right? Sometimes you can use bioluminescent materials, they use them on planes and all that sort of stuff. You can also use these types of different kinds of lights that are sunk into the ground that are very, very, very low lumens, but they show you the way. We want to incorporate these kinds of terms into lighting industry so that we have darkness practitioners as well as lighting practitioners. So people are starting with the idea of preserving darkness and are preserving night and incorporated into their design or at the base level of the thought process. The problem I see right now, it's not that the lighting industry doesn't want to do that, it's that the customers aren't ready for it, Dan. They don't think in terms
Absolutely,
of
yeah. People, and that's sort of what I was alluding to before in terms of pitching the idea of dark sky to a customer. It's tough for them to swallow. They have a solution in their mind. So especially, I mean, for me as a lighting practitioner, by the time they've approached me, they've basically made up their minds that they want lighting. So it can be tough to sway them to go down a different road. And it also comes down to one of the tenets of, I mean, design or really any sales, whether you're selling lights or cars or towels at Bed Bath & Beyond, is figuring out what it is the customer wants, right? So, and that's part, a customer might say, well, I want lights in my backyard. I want to light it up. Well, why? Well, as you talk to them, you learn, okay, so it's not that they want more light, or it's not that, it becomes like, well, when I go to take out the trash, for instance, it's dark, or when I walk down to my dock, it's difficult to see, or, my kids are playing in the playset back there. I want to be able to see them and be able to have them get back and forth to the deck safely. Right? So you assess what the actual needs are, and then you can create solutions that are more tailored to them. By making more specific design choices, you're also potentially eliminating the number of fixtures, the amount of light being put in the yard that might be necessary, and you're giving them a better experience, right? You're giving them exactly what it is they want, while also being better for the environment and creating happier customers. So that's what, like I said before, right? It's in my world, it's not about saying no to lighting; it's about saying yes to lighting, but doing it responsibly. Right? I hold the reins in terms of what goes in, because ultimately, if I propose a dark sky friendly design or a darkness friendly design, and the customer says like absolutely not, like I want floodlights or whatever, I mean, I have the option to walk. But it's better if I can keep them in the fold and find out what they want and find out a way to do it in a way that doesn't have as many negative impacts. Like I said, if I say no, there's 150 electricians out there
for sure,
who have 1,000 watt floodlight over the top of their garage, and that's it. Like, it'll blind the neighbors, and they'll love it because they can see their and that's I've been seeing more of that. And I live in the Hudson Valley, so I'm about an hour north of New York City, so I'm pretty well into the woods. It's dark out when it's dark out, and little by little, I've been seeing it start to encroach in our area. Lights that are less friendly, and you notice it. You really do notice it, and especially, from an area that's started out dark. When I moved up here a few years ago, if I walked my dog at night, it was, I would have them have my flashlight and like keep my eyes out of the bushes around me. And now it's getting brighter and brighter, and all of a sudden, I don't need my flashlight anymore. But also, I can't really see this as much anymore.
Yeah. It's tough.
Yeah.
We find ourselves in the same boat, just in slightly different areas of the industry. I often ask myself, these lesser of evils. It's better that I take the money and create the light pollution, because these people are going to do it anyway. There's just no stopping it. And at the end of the day, there's I'm not in the lighting design position. I'm a distributor. I sell lighting equipment. I have these lines. The products are on the lines of that. And so that's where one of our committees at NAILED stepped back and made the 6 industry strategies for darkness restoration and night preservation, which I thought were amazing. And it starts off with advocacy and awareness, and then training and certification and incentives and enforcement, all these different areas, because if you're asking the lighting industry to say no to sales, that's not going to happen.
Right.
It's just not going to happen. People have to make a living. And so that's where we need regulation in it. And then we need those regulations to be enforced so that the compliers are rewarded and not squeezed. So what generally happens with regulation is, and this is in Ontario, and I have a lot of experience with it in Ontario, other than the Electrical Safety Authority, which does a fantastic job enforcing the regulations here. They inspect the jobs. They make sure that they're electrically good. Are they perfect? No, but every electrical contractor has the Electrical Safety Authority in the back of their head, right? I got to keep it tight. Otherwise, I'm going to get in trouble. I'll lose my license, whatever, right? With other regulations, they're just not enforced. Somebody writes it on paper, and that's the end of it. And nobody goes around and says, hey, this light is against the lighting ordinance, and every day you have 3 weeks to take it down or change it to something that's appropriate, and until after the 3 weeks it's $50 a day or something like that. There needs to be some sort of, we need that carrot and the stick, because without the stick you're only going to squeeze the compliers and reward the non-compliers. So we, as a society, if we want to accomplish this goal of eliminating, or I wouldn't say eliminate, we'll never eliminate it, but to significantly reduce or abate light pollution, and for all of the great reasons to do that, we need enforcement. And that's what, I think you and I are coming to the conclusion here. There's really nothing we can do about this as lighting professionals without that. Without that call to action from the enforcement side. And that's going to be a big job.
Yeah, I mean, especially the question comes to where does that fall? Is it at the municipal level, and is it small towns, which probably in some ways feel it more, right? Like a rural town of 700 people, like they don't have someone who's driving around at night. They can't pay somebody to drive around at night. They'll probably spend more money on that person's salary than they'll get on tickets for or whatever they
depends how much they charge for the tickets. Depends on how much they charge for the tickets, buddy.
That's true. Well, yeah, they'll pay them out of commissions, maybe.
You know what's interesting? On the profile of the Restoring Darkness podcast website, it has a bio about me, and one of the things that I truly believe is that the solutions to all our problems should be revenue generating, and that we should always look to generate revenue in order to solve our problems. And a lot of people don't know what I mean by that. And there's a lot of things that I mean. I mean that if a business can, if somebody can if we can create an environment where a business can exist that solves that problem while paying people who pay taxes and while paying taxes to the government, it's way better than giving money to the government and having them set something up. You understand what I'm saying? And if we have a government, then the department should look that its activities be funded by fines 100%. You understand what I mean? And if they can't do that in an area like this, like for example, there's a huge industrial area just north of my farm that creates so much light pollution. It's absolutely grotesque. And it's new because they just switched all the lights in that industrial park slowly over the last 10 years to LED. And it's disgusting. The township of Uxbridge should go find those people $1,000 a week for every week that they're not within the ordinances of the township of Uxbridge. It's very simple.
And I think that's something too in terms of thinking about where this enforcement would direct this. I mean, big commercial projects like that, right? A parking lot that's being built at 7-Eleven or whatever that's being built. It's already on the radar of the municipalities in terms of building permits and everything else. Like it wouldn't be, I would think, not local government. I would think it wouldn't be that hard to add in a layer of that permitting process to have submitting a lighting plan that's approved by somebody with some level of knowledge and then enforced, right? Not so much, and and my imagination when I was thinking about it before was going after. There's a house down the street from me that I had in mind.
Yeah, sure.
Some pretty horrible lighting, but maybe homeowners. I mean, maybe that's done on a reporting basis. and also not to necessarily encourage the idea of neighbor versus neighbor feuds, but any large commercial project that's being built is already going through governments anyway, right? So I wonder how hard it would be to add in a layer of that compliance.
I'm sure they have it. The problem is that,
study.
yeah, okay, I got a couple things here I'm going to hit you with, okay? First of all,
Sure.
that sort of lighting design stuff already exists on new builds. The problem is that all of our buildings already exist. So all of the light pollution is from buildings that already exist and lights that are already there. And so this focus on new construction that's so prevalent in the lighting design community and in the regulation community, well, let's just solve it through new construction or major renovations that require the permitting process. Well, guess what? To change a 1,000-watt metal halide to a 300-watt LED in Ontario does not require a building permit. It only requires an electrical permit, right? So, and 100% of all of the light pollution is on buildings that already passed the permitting process. Right? So we can't go back and fix it by new construction permits or major renovation permits. That's the first thing. The second thing, to solve your neighbor problem, the first thing, you don't want to get into ever neighbor versus neighbor. You just want to send them an anonymous letter through the mail. Just write them a really kind note in the mail. Folks, I have said this so many times in the show, and people look at me squirrely. I do this all the time, and it works amazing. It's never failed. The only time it fails is when it's not a residential neighbor, when it's a commercial or industrial neighbor. They completely ignore my letters. Okay?
I'm sure. Yeah.
They couldn't care less. This one guy on the road has this giant sign. It's an LED pixel sign, and you can see it all the way from kilometers away. You can see it on the horizon. And you know what else bothers me about it? He likes to put political messages up on his sign. And you know what? I tend to agree with his politics, I guess, in some ways. Like I tend to, we both dislike the same prime minister quite a bit. But I if I didn't agree with him, I'd really hate it if people did that. You know what I'm saying? Like if I was driving down the road and somebody had some big sign about, political thing that, I didn't agree with, and I have to read that every time I go by just because it's on his stupid property, that should be totally illegal to do that. Second of all, that sign, why is it on at 3 o'clock in the morning? Workers wanted, he has sometimes up there. Please apply with it. Like as if you want anyone going by at 3 o'clock in the morning to apply for a job. So this type of this type of commercial light pollution is completely and totally unnecessary, and it's grotesque. Actually, and we can solve that because those corporations have the money to pay significant fines. And if you were Uxbridge or Stouffville or Paducah, Kentucky or whatever, get out the books and look at your ordinances and go around and find people and create some revenue for the county that's going to go to great things, and tell people to change
do a
their
once
lights.
yearly checkup. Go around and check on everybody, and
just drive around.
It's like it's like you said. I mean, it's like we say, it's commercials the biggest. This can be the biggest offender in existing properties, which is it's tougher to track down. People make changes all the time, so it's compliance and it's enforcement and it's continuous enforcement, right? People can swap it out for whatever, and then especially if it's a fixture, a bulb, whatever, people can play games that way. In terms of what you're saying too about the signs, the signs, it's like. It's like someone shouting in a room. It doesn't matter if you like what they're saying. Someone is shouting in your ear is going to get on your nerves regardless, no matter what.
I don't care if you agree with me or not. I don't really care to hear your opinions, but I'm not interested in your political opinions that you're putting out on the road. It should be completely illegal. But anyway, that's separate from the light pollution piece, which is even worse. The light pollution piece. And, I happen to agree with the guy and his opinions or whatever every now and then. I'm like, okay, good point. But turn off the damn sign and nobody cares what you think about the Prime Minister or the Premier of Ontario or the Mayor of Uxbridge for that matter. So the other side of it is that this hopelessness of regulations. And in talking to you, and the feeling I get from everybody is like, yeah, right. Nobody's ever going to do that. Right? That's kind of your... when you're talking about it, it's like, yeah, that would be a great idea, but fat chance, pal. They are never going to do it. I actually think we can change that. I think that the townships and the municipalities should look at people's outdoor lighting at night, and they should have a set of fines based on the square footage of your house. So, and I would say that probably the most of the offenders with lots of outdoor lighting are probably wealthy people.
And, you can send them a letter in the mail from the township saying, hey, you got 1 week or 3 weeks or 6 weeks to solve your light pollution problem. And if you don't, we're going to check on it. And you can appeal to this person here. And this is the appeal process. This is what townships and municipalities are in the business of doing.
And I would say, I mean, it would have to be something that's, before we write tickets to all of my customers. So it would have to fall in within certain bounds, right? I mean, and that's where it comes into the ideas of light trespass and clutter and responsibly designed lighting, right? Lighting that's responsibly designed isn't obtrusive, right? And it's not an eyesore. And again, under certain lumens, per acreage or whatever, it's not necessarily even particularly contributing to sky load and light pollution in that regard. So I think it's it has to be designed within parameters that can be set by. I don't know whether it would be set. I mean, it would be challenging as a designer and practitioner. It would be challenging for it to be set by the municipality, because then I do a house and I go 3 blocks over to do somebody else's house, and it's a different set of regulations. I don't know if it exists on the state level or if it's created by AOLP, right, the Association of Outdoor Lighting Professionals, or any of the other industry organizations that are adopted by municipalities. Right. So I don't think that the goal is getting rid of landscape lighting.
No way.
Because then I'll be looking for a job.
This is a
but it's about managing it, right? It's the yes, but responsibly.
But this is the tentativeness that I can feel it in you again. What most people in the lighting industry don't understand, Dan, is that if we started doing this, as long as we're ready for it, so NAILD's getting ready, the Lighting and Darkness Foundation's getting ready to help out. If we did this would be a bonanza for you, Dan. It would be the greatest thing that ever happened. Because people, if you just said, no, it's not that you can't have outdoor lighting, you just have to operate between these smart rules. And the people that are trained on that would get all the wins. They would get all the money from it. And this is where we get rid of Johnny-come-lately and the lighting marauders. We get rid of the lack of, we introduce expertise into the sales process. We introduce certification into the sales process. And we work, it's not that electricians aren't against the Electrical Safety Authority. They love it because it keeps the riffraff out of the business, keeps the costs, professionals. It prevents the erosion of expertise. And I think that we could, if we as an industry got together and started making, active advocacy towards municipalities, we could set up a system that totally inured to our benefit financially, while restoring darkness to our light polluted environments and preserving night where it exists. I mean, I think you're looking at it the wrong way.
I think that the landscape lighting industry, especially, is unique to that versus the commercial lighting industry. I think that one of the things that we sort of joke about is our biggest competition is the homeowners themselves. Because really, there's nothing stopping a homeowner from going to a big box store or Amazon and buying a kit of 75 lights for a fraction of what I would charge to begin with. So if you start introducing hurdles to the installation of especially landscape lighting, is where it would impact my industry. I think that part of it, though, it would be written into the regulations that whether it's based on voltage, right, whether it's low voltage systems are exempt, or in terms of total lumens per, there'd have to be controls written into it so that again, otherwise a lot of homeowners will just say, well, I just won't bother, right? Like we do everyone in the industry does a lot of small jobs, right? We all have our handful of big multi-$1,000 jobs, but a lot of us are bigger. Our bread and butter is the smaller, $3,000, $4,000, handful of lights here and there projects.
I love those projects. Those are my favorite.
Yeah, part of the reason I love small projects is that it's usually, if it's a small project, if it's a small project for me, it means that it's a big project for the homeowner.
Sure it is.
Right?
Yeah.
A homeowner that can write a check for $30,000 for landscape lighting isn't thinking twice about it. A homeowner that writes a $3,000 check, that's probably a bigger chunk of money for them proportionally, and they're going to love it. It means a lot. But if they know that there's a risk that they could get a fine for it, they might just scrap the project up. Right. So that's why I think that.
So well, here's what I'm telling you. These regulations are coming whether you like it or not. They may come in 5 years or 10 years, but there's so much action on this issue. The amount of we have a program here that tracks the every single English language article or research project or anything in the world that's put out onto the internet about this issue. And the news is just going like this.
Mm-hmm.
Almost a straight line of how fast the amount of information about this issue is coming out. My opinion is that we should grab the bull by the horns, whether it's the lighting distributors or the Association of Outdoor Lighting Professionals. We need to come together now and tell the regulators that this is how you should regulate this. This is how it should be done for landscape lighting. This is how it should be done for outdoor commercial lighting. This is how it should be done for factory lighting. And we're all trained up and ready to go with our darkness
Absolutely.
specialist.
No, I think you're 100%, correct on that. That if like you said, if these regulations are coming, it needs to be the landscape, or the lighting industry that drives them. Because if we don't regulate ourselves, someone's going to come in and regulate us. And it'll be written by bureaucrats and lobbyists who really just want to write the best sounding bill that'll get approved by voters.
It's already happened in the light. It already happened to the lighting industry once. It already happened once. Dan, with the when it came to lighting equipment, accreditation agencies stepped in. Okay, and a lot of people don't like it when I say this. Okay, they don't like it, but they pushed all of the lighting professionals aside. And the lighting industry was squabbling about how to do LED right and the transition from legacy technology to LED and sustainability and standardization and all the things, the processes that go on. And because they were so like that, nobody knew what to do. I've been in the lighting industry for 25 years personally. And I didn't know what to do at that time. And storied companies that are hundreds of years in the business were kind of like, we're not sure about this, if this is the right way to go or this is the right way to go. And guess what? A nonprofit accreditation agency stepped in and said, fine, you guys can't decide. You're going to do it our way. And they've been dictating to the lighting industry ever since. And, so, I mean, either we do it, or it happens to us. This is the same thing. We're in the same, whether it's the LED boom, it's 2013 right now in the LED boom, and somebody's going to step in here, and it might be an astronomer, or it might be somebody that doesn't know that much about lighting, and they're going to step in and they're going to tell us what's up. Or we can get our act together, Dan, and we can present to the regulators. We can work with ordinances. We can reach out to the bylaw officers, let them know that the Lighting and Darkness Foundation, which is created by lighting distributors, go to the restoringdarkness.com right now. Click the donate button, lighting people. We're on this for you guys. This is what we're going to do, the Lighting and Darkness Foundation. We're not competing with anybody out there. We're lighting professionals. We want to help people on the ground that have dark sky issues, that are in battles about this sort of stuff with ordinances. We want to create education. We want to do research. We want to do all sorts of different things. So click that donor. Why not become a monthly donor while you're at it, folks? That's right, because we're going to take this thing down. And that's what this foundation is created to exist. So that being said, there's a little spiel for me, Dan. We're at 45 minutes. I can't believe it's been 45 minutes. Can you?
No, time flies. We haven't.
Wow. Yeah, it sure does. Do you have any final thoughts from the landscape lighting? I'd love to have talked to you a little bit about your time as a lighting designer, but we don't have time for that now. So maybe in the future down the road. Any final thoughts out there for our listeners?
I think, like I said, especially for directed more towards the lighting practitioners, like we said, the answer is yes, but responsibly, right? Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, right? If you have the chance between everyone doing a little bit is better than a few people doing a lot. So start thinking about it in your designs and start implementing what you can, where you can. And little by little, it'll change the aesthetics, it'll change the designs, and it'll change the industry in terms of demand, right? If people stop speccing big giant floodlights and everything and start speccing shielded glare cutoff, warm color temperatures, that's the way it's going to go. People want what they see, and we start putting out things that are more along the lines of what we're all striving for, and little by little it'll change. And get out there, and if you have an opportunity to help create these regulations, do it. Because like we said, we have to either regulate ourselves or we're going to get regulated. So we need to be the driving force, or else someone's going to sweep in and do it for us, and then we'll, who knows? We'll be working from our back foot rather than trying to lead.
Well, I couldn't agree with Dan Jobbins anymore on that last part, except to say that, folks, this is happening. There's just so much momentum behind this issue. If you could see what I see right now, we already have talk in the UK Parliament a couple months ago, a whole commission. The National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors had some panels, and I really love what they came up with. With what Dan was talking about right there was that within your practice, try to restore darkness to our light polluted environments. It's a call to action. RestoringDarkness.com. Restoring darkness. Start thinking like that. Preserving night where it exists. That's why we're trying to use this new terminology so that we can pass on to you that this is an incremental problem. We're going to solve it fixture by fixture, and we're going to get better and better and better at this as time goes on. And we have all sorts of technology and controls and all sorts of things, fantastic things that we can start to implement into our practices. So start thinking about lighting and darkness all the time. And if you have a chance, I'm going to tell you one more time, go to the RestoringDarkness.com website, click that donate button, and why not become a monthly donor. All of Dan's, he's got a Facebook, he's got a website called HudsonValleyHolidays.net, and I don't know if I'm going to put his email up there, but I'll put his Instagram and his Facebook up on the RestoringDarkness.com website. If you want to look for Dan, you can check him out there. And for now, I'm going to bid you all adieu. Thanks you for listening, and bye for now.
Look no further for dark sky-friendly products than Evluma. Since its first product launch, Evluma has carried one or more International Dark Sky Association certified models. If your customer cares about light pollution, suggest the OmniMax with shielding or the Area Max with full cutoff to reduce uplight and glare. Evluma, illuminating the pursuit of darkness.